Hi everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Jennifer Nguyen and I'm a volunteer with HAAPIFEST committee. I will be the moderator for today's panel, so if you have any questions for our guests, feel free to drop them below in the comment section and we'll try our best to answer them if we have time at the end. So without further ado, I'd like to start by giving a warm welcome to the director of Find Me, Tom Huang.
Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that's along with Tom Huang, we also have Sara Amini, who's the actress behind Amelia. So everybody say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know it was a little bit difficult with all the technical difficulties, and I just wanted to say thank you for being patient with all of us. And yeah. So I guess I can start off with your director's statement. Tom, you said in your statement that the idea behind this film was actually first conceived when you were hiking in Zion National Park. So my question to you is, what or who convinced you to visit this location in the first place?
Well, it was actually me. I'd been there long before, and I'd read about it and saw pictures of it, and I thought, wow, this is a place I got to go check out. And so I just went one time with my family, and we just started hiking through the little river, just like in the film. I'm just looking around at these, just gorgeous canyon walls, and just said to myself, like, this is something everyone should see. And at some point, I said to myself, I want to make a movie where I point to the, someone points to the screen and sees it and says, I want to go there. And that's kind of how the whole thing started with getting this film together.
Awesome. So how did you evolve that idea to become like a search for Amelia in the film? What was your thought process to like show this motive through a search for a friend through your character?
I think it started with actually with a close friend of mine went through a really difficult divorce, just like the character in the film. And seeing him go through that and seeing the way it changed him, it was really hard to see. I did not realize that a relationship like that could really kind of, really hurt a person in such a way. And I decided to start it from there and just try to figure out like what would be able to get someone back on their feet again. And the first thing that I thought about is a place like the national parks, nature, and also a friend. And so that's kind of where it kind of started. Like, what kind of person would be able to get someone back on their feet and have be someone that that was a good friend and want to do something for them. And that's kind of how the character of Amelia kind of started. And when I first wrote the script with Amelia in it, I thought it was fine. But some people read it and said, like, this character is interesting, but is fun, but like, can you just make it more interesting? And that's when I started bringing these other elements to her character that that not only is she's like this very upbeat person who likes to travel, but she's got kind of a dark past and the idea that, like, you think you know someone, but you don't really know them. There's someone's kind of office personality and their whole personality, and in this case, he just knows the office personality, and he learns that there's more to her behind her that kind of like really builds the story and tells more about who Amelia is.
Yes, I really like that you incorporated that there are two sides to a person, and your portrayal of Amelia, Sarah, was amazing. I actually felt like it resonated with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, before this film, I was wondering if you visited any national parks yourself, Sarah?
No, I have never visited any national parks, and when I found out that I got the part of Amelia, I was like, yes, I get to go visit all these places. And I did not get to visit any of the places. It was all cheated. So Tom actually went with the crew and so got to see all these amazing places, but I still haven't. But the film has really, watching the film and the amazing cinematography and just these incredible visuals really makes me want to go now. now I'm like, I gotta go to Zion and Yosemite and visit all of those places.
Yeah, so it seems that Find Me has really like enhanced your relationship with nature. I'm guessing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's really powerful in that way. Like even in the parts of the movie where where Joe isn't speaking, and you're just with the backdrops of like the national parks. It's just so striking, and I'm like, I have to go at some point. At some point, I will go.
Yes, exactly. Also, yeah, speaking of the natural scenery, and I just thought the cinematography throughout your film was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, Tom, how did you come up with each location for your character to explore?
Well, first, I gotta give a shout out to my cinematographer, 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗘. He's just an amazing,
That was awesome.
cinematographer. Yeah. And before we did the film, and I kind of knew him, but I found out that he's a travel cinematographer. So he goes to all these exotic places and films. They basically just put him in a helicopter and drop him off in the middle of nowhere with the camera, and he filmed stuff. So he was like just the perfect person for our film, just because it wasn't micro budget, and Sarah mentioned that, like, she'd actually be going to all these places. But just because of our micro budget, it would be really difficult for us to cart around the actors. So we actually doubled a park in Los Angeles for the scenes that she did. At Yosemite and Zion and all that in Death Valley. And actually, I think it actually ended up working well in a sense that we went on a hike, and all those places on the phone that she did at the different places was the same hike. So we did it in order. So we started with the first one, and then we hiked a little bit into the second one, and then hiked a little bit, and then did the last really powerful scene that Sarah was able to do. And I think that really helped it, because I think go ahead, Sarah, tell me your process as we were hiking, how that might have helped you.
Yeah, I think initially it was really daunting to do all three of those really big, heavy monologues all in one day. But I think that at the end, we found a really great, I don't know, Tom, wouldn't you say, like it ended up being great because
there was no one there.
We were completely to ourselves, and Tom and the crew, I asked for space in between each of the monologues. So we would shoot the first location, I would do that scene, and then they would hike on, and I gave myself time to hike by myself as if it was Amelia hiking and seeing everything for the last time. And then I would get to the second place, and then I would tell them, okay, I'm ready to go. And I would do the second location. And then again, they would move on to the third location, and I would take my time and really look at everything and really like try to have a sensory experience. And then that final, have that really big final, moment right before she's about to kill herself. So it ended up being great because they really gave me that flexibility that I was able to really not rush anything and really just be in Amelia's shoes. And it ended up being a really, I think, cathartic and powerful day.
And I have to say that, she's actually filming herself on the phone doing it, and which was also pretty amazing, that she was able to do that, convey that, But to your question, as for the scenery, these are the places I went to I want to do exactly what Amelia wanted to do in the film. So I wanted to show people places that were accessible, that you didn't have to ride a mountain bike and fall into a crack and have to cut off your arm to go see, the places you just park, get out, hike for maybe a mile or so, and then you just be in this amazing place. And there are places like that. I think what's daunting for a lot of people about going to outdoor spaces is that they think that I have to buy a tent, and I have to I have to get a backpack, and it's gonna be really hard, and and it's not. There are a lot of places you can go where you just if you just do the research, and I've done the research here for people that there are places like this, and that's why I chose these places. These are all places I really feel like that are accessible, and end up seeing something really, really cool.
Well, I'm really glad that you both had that amazing experience just to really just take in the scenery and the nature and how, it's just an emotional experience to be, enveloped in the earth, basically.
Yeah.
And, well, I just wanted to contrast that a little bit because while talking to strangers, Joe was saying how he pursued accounting, not because it was thrilling, but rather because everybody said it was a good job and that he was good at it. So he lived a very mundane life in contrast to all of the adventure that, Amelia liked to embark on. So have both of you experienced this kind of pressure growing up? Or know anyone who's been in that situation?
You're asking the Asian and the immigrant parents, yeah.
Yeah, and the Iranian Colombian with immigrant parents. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll let Sarah tell her story. But basically, yes. I mean, my parents had no understand like why I would go into this filmmaking business. And actually, I went to UCLA first as a pre-econ, thinking I'd be a lawyer, and that ended pretty quickly after the first quarter. I wanted to make sure in the film that I didn't trash accountants too much. I know that there are a lot of people out there that you have it's just a reality of life that you have to get a job that that's secure, so you could help your family, maybe help your family abroad, maybe help your family all around you and friends. So you really don't have a choice. But I was hopefully trying to show people that you don't have to be trapped in whatever job that you're in. That you can find something that to pursue that like is your passion or something that really helps you outside of work, and not to get so caught up in just doing work all the time. Yeah, so that's what I've seen with a lot of my friends. I've worked some jobs, in corporate jobs, and that's what kind of gave me the idea of what Joe is like, because I see a lot of people that fall in this situation. And so I just wanted to, hopefully just show people that, there's, you have to, at the end of the day, pay the bills, if you can, but there's a world outside that's still out there that you should check out and see, to expand your scope.
Yes, and yeah, I think it's really important to, talk about this dilemma that people face, because obviously Asian Americans kind of have to deal with this. Parents always asking their children to just become doctors and lawyers, and I really like that you included that into your piece.
Yeah.
Well, on another note, terminal illnesses can be a tough subject to portray in films, especially when it involves euthanasia or suicide. So since your character personally faces a dilemma, my question to you, Sarah, is how did it feel portraying Amelia, knowing that she commits suicide in the end?
I really tried not to focus on the suicide too much, because the great thing about playing Amelia was that she was so full of life right up until the very end. And, when I read the script for the first time, one of the lines that really stuck out to me was the one that says at the very end, when she says, "I'm not going to let this disease define me." And that's kind of that was the base for how I created the character. Was like, okay, if this is, like Tom said, she's upbeat, she's got a zest for life, then she's not going to be embodied by this disease that she has, and she's going to be embodied by her love for her friends, her love for nature and traveling. And that's the legacy that she wants to leave behind. So, I didn't really think too much about the suicide, and especially because she did it on her own terms. Because it was entirely her choice, there was an inherent freedom in that choice. And so she had found inner peace within that, so it was sad for everyone that she left behind, Helena, her sister, and her family, and Joe, but it wasn't sad for her because she had found the peace within the choice that she made, and also what I found really admirable about her is that, she was very selfless as a friend and very loyal as a friend. And even up until the very end, where she's about to commit suicide, she's focused entirely on Joe's happiness and his well-being and, his future. And so I found her to be very brave and admirable to play.
That's amazing. That's beautiful that you think that. Also, one of our audience asked a question similar to that. How did Sarah prepare the role of Amelia? This was from Copycat Emily. So, like, how did
Emily? Hello. I know who Emily is. Copycat Emily is. Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to say kind of roughly the same thing. Yeah, it's kind of like my upbeat-ish personality, but like hiked up to like a 10. And I think that Tom and I early on found a really great rapport with each other, that we were like able to be really quippy with each other, and that helped. And obviously, you know, like I said, with her love for nature and travel, and I haven't visited any of those national parks, but I hike all the time. I'm a big nature lover, and that was easy to implement. And then as far as her disease, I didn't think about that too much, except for when she would feel tired, that you see at the beginning of the movie when she's tired or coughing or sniffling, or moments that she would feel sort of weak, but then push through that. So all those kind of different elements. Thank you, Copycat Emily.
Another question regarding that. This is for Tom. Eugene Lee asked, how hard was it to resist the temptation of a happier ending, i.e. finding her body barely alive?
It's a good question.
Yeah. I think that, you know, I wanted to, like I said, I want to make Amelia something more than just, you know, manic pixie girlfriend person. And so, like, I was just trying to think, you know, as I was trying to take that character a step further, you know, what's something that would just make her like even more interesting, and you know, to do something. And when I came up with this, I just felt like this is something very heroic, you know, something that I don't think, you know, I kind of hid it from people throughout the film, but there's like little hints of it, you know, going through. But overall, like the audience reaction every time that when they watch it is like, you know, seeing Amelia like with the phone going off. It's like it's a huge punch in the gut. It's what the way people say. They just don't expect it, you know. And the A didn't expect her to be that sick, and B expect her to pass away in the end. And I think that although it was, you know, it's a kind of a sadder ending, it also just gives Amelia's character so much more. It just makes it so much more interesting, and shows what, you know, what the human spirit can do, and the power of friendship. And so that's really what I was trying to convey with that. You know,
and I would also argue, Tom, that it's not necessarily not a happy ending. Right. You know, I understand that, you know, the sadness of her death and everything, but then watch the scene afterwards where Joe is connecting with his son because of the things that Amelia did. So, you know, that's the beauty of life, right? It's not just happy or sad, where it's not so black and white. Everything is kind of, you know, intertwined in this very nuanced way that life really is like, you know?
No, I agree. And it's interesting. A lot of people have watched the film and told me that, like, this is actually Amelia's film because she's orchestrated all this stuff. You know, you don't find out at the end that she does, but like, this is her plan, right? So like everything that Joe's kind of doing, falling into, is like, this is what Amelia wanted to happen. In the end, it all worked out exactly the way she wanted it. And so that way, I think it, you know, it's a great thing for her.
Yeah, and I'm glad you really went through with the original plot of Amelia's death, because I really felt like it was more impactful in the end that, you know, she decided to leave her last gift to Tom as the adventure that she gave him. Anyways, today Asian Americans are actually quite rare to, like, it's kind of rare to see Asian American film directors and actresses. So how do you both hope to further empower Asian Americans, and especially those in the entertainment industry?
Well, all the films that for me, all the films that I make personally, you know, that I write and direct myself, I make sure that it's, you know, that there's a diverse cast, and that there are Asian Americans and other, you know, traditional diverse minorities playing major roles, because that's the way I see America, and that's the way that my life is like, that I see around, that I don't see in a lot of Hollywood films. And so, all the films I make, I will make sure to, that I made a promise to myself that I would have those kind of characters and invest in those kind of characters. And then also just talking with, festivals like this, and like talking to other diverse filmmakers and making sure that I could help them in any way, and forming a community. It's so lucky to have Sarah aboard. It's like now she's part of my community, and her writing partner happens to be Chinese American as well. So
that was Copycat Emily.
That's right. So that to be able to like keep forming this community and keep moving forward together as a team to help each other out, and also create stuff ourselves. That's the way I look at it. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm the exact same way, because I am also a writer. Emily and I are very committed to furthering the narrative of people of color and minorities and first generation Americans. Like Tom said, Emily's Taiwanese, Chinese American. I am Iranian, Colombian American. And I was really grateful to Tom because, everyone that he cast around him in this film were women of color. I mean, and who are also my friends: Kritia Bajos, Cuban American; Kirby Howell Baptiste, Black London American. She's British American, and we're very talented. Yes, and immensely talented. And we are, both Tom and I we've had conversations about this. I feel like we're seeing a change. We're seeing, there's the impact of Crazy Rich Asians, and the impact of Parasite, the impact of The Farewell, which is one of my personal favorite movies. Fresh Off the Boat. Like, we're seeing Asian Americans behind and in front of the camera. And I think that is really, really impactful. And I think that is really important because, like Tom said, that reflects the America that we see in our daily life. So why would it not be reflected on our screens as well? So I think we still have a ways to go, but I think that we're getting there. I think as long as people of color are in the writers' rooms and behind the camera and developing these stories and these narratives that are more niche, but not at the same time, universal at the same time, then we can really be impactful moving forward.
Right, and I completely agree. Oh, you can go, Tom.
I gotta say that, and the way I'm seeing it, it's starting to be more prevalent now, is because my next film that I want to make it's around a Taiwanese American family, and all the same names kind of come up that I'd love to cast. They're all busy. They have their own projects that they want to get done, and they get done, and it's like, it used to be a time where it's like I could find these people and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I get to star. Yeah, I could be an Asian American star in a film. That's awesome. And now they're like, hey, I got like 2 projects I'm doing myself. Plus, I'm being cast in these things. And so now I have to find the next Sandra Oh, the next like Randall Park, which is great. I think it's awesome. But like these, all these names are getting cast in all sorts of things. And I think that's really positive and awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, speaking of Asian American empowerment, as a volunteer with OCA Greater Houston, we're working as community advocates to empower individuals to register to vote and fill out the census. As you know, 2020 is a census year and also an election year. So it is a crucial time to make a difference. So why do you think it's important, even during lockdown, to do our due diligence as Asian Americans?
Well, first of all, we need to show that we're represented in America. And the one way we do that is if you fill out your census form, get your family fill out their census forms, to show that that the bigger percentage we have that we could show, with the census, the more that people could point to and say that our minority is growing, and a lot of studies have shown that it has been growing. And then, not to get too political or anything, but as far as registering to vote, if we want to see change happen after the upcoming election, the only way it happens if we vote. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you have any reservations about what's happening in the last few months, then I'm sure you'll go vote. But it's not just you. You have to get other people to vote too. You have to get those people that didn't vote last time to vote now. And you have to get the new people that are looking to vote to go vote. And that's the one way you think change is going to happen. That's the American way. So that's what I'd have to say about that.
Exactly. Sarah, do you have anything to add on?
I mean, Tom really said it. This is a very crucial year. And where Tom won't go political, I will. We have a crazy person in the White House. I'm not afraid to say that. We're seeing rampant racism in the Black community. Clearly, if you've watched the news in the last, not just week, months, years, and even going back 2 months to the Asian American community, receiving rampant racism and xenophobia regarding COVID.
Yes.
And it starts in the White House. He has created this kind of dialogue and conversation about race that just we can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. We have to vote. We saw how crucial it was in 2016 when half of the country did not vote. And the last 4 years have been really evident that voting matters. So, everybody has to do their part. Everybody has to make sure their voices are heard. We have to get out. It's
not just the president. I mean, the Senate, the House of Representatives, your
locally,
local,
everything.
Stuff. That's where it all begins at the beginning. So again, it's like, the obvious target is the White House, but people have to realize that like they have to keep voting. There's other places too. It's just as important and is making just as much change.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Well, it looks like we have time for one more question.
Right.
So what are your other upcoming projects for the future?
Are you going first?
I guess I'll go first. My next feature film that is called Dealing with Dad. It's about a Taiwanese American family dealing with their asshole dad, who's actually nicer depressed than well. So it's a dramedy, and I've been fortunate enough to get some great producers on board. Alan Powell, who helped produce Miss Purple and Gook, and Effie Brown, who's been involved with Dear White People and a whole bunch of Sundance films. And we're looking to get that off the ground as soon as we get some COVID guidelines and start casting.
Write me a part, Tom.
Yeah, I will.
Write me a part.
Yeah, actually, I do have a part for you, Sarah, but we'll talk about it.
Okay, great.
And so that's my next thing. And I also have a film noir set in the Japanese internment camps called The Lolo Betrayal, set in World War II. We shot a short for it. That's a proof of concept, and that's the other thing we're trying to get off the ground. So those are two things I'm working on.
Does that one have Tim Chu?
It does have Tim Chu.
Yeah, I love
He's
Tim
amazing.
Chu.
He knows you, I know.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
What I have going on, June 25th is the second season of The Twilight Zone. Emily and I, my writing partner that I mentioned previously, have written 2 episodes this season. The first episode and I believe the 4th episode. And I'm also acting in the first episode. So if you have CBS All Access, it's going to all be out at one time, so you can binge the entire second season. Please do.
Which episode are you acting in?
The first one.
The first one. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right. Wrote 2 episodes, and the first one I'm acting in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely be checking those 2 out.
Yay!
Well, I guess that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to speak more about your film and just have a great conversation. Social media handles for Find Me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Find Me the Film. And thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Keep the great work.
Thank you.
Bye, Sarah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I would like you all to join us for our next block of films, which is titled Line of Sight, Fragile Bonds of Parent and Child. We will begin tomorrow live at 2 p.m. And before we end, I'd like to bring attention to the current racial injustices that our Black communities are facing at the moment. We as API are standing in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. So please remember to visit tinyurl.com/BLMAAPI to learn concrete Houston-specific ways to be more involved in this issue. We will also be conducting a special panel next week to discuss the current climate and ways we can engage and best implement our calls to action. So please stay tuned for more details. And that completes our second day of films. Thank you so much for joining us at HAAPIFEST, and I hope you all have a great evening.
We would like to acknowledge the grief and outrage right now, especially within our Black communities. Our city, Houston, continues to hurt. George Floyd was a native Houstonian, and according to the Houston Chronicle, we have had 6 police killings this past month alone.
As Asian Americans, we have to acknowledge and interrogate our own anti-Blackness and relative privilege within American society. We have to actively unlearn our own biases. It was Black activists who pushed against racist naturalization laws and supported Asian Americans after the racist murder of Vincent Chen.
Black activists stepping into action have benefited our community in profound ways. We must move beyond being a bystander and join the larger movement of Black Lives Matter. Join us in donating, protesting, petitioning, educating ourselves, and supporting our Black brothers and sisters in whatever way we can. Visit tinyurl.com/BLMAAPI, all caps, for more detailed ways to help, including Houston-specific bail funds, scripts to call local representatives, and translated letters to our family members, all of which you can join us in doing in between screenings. On behalf of OCA Greater Houston and the HAAPIFEST Committee, thank you for joining us on this broadcast.